This true crime story is entitled The Cheshire, Connecticut Home Invasion Murders. Warning: this story contains graphic content, including home invasion, kidnapping, sexual assault including a minor, arson, and murder. Listening discretion is advised. Jennifer Hawk Pettit, born September 26, 1958, was a nurse and co-director at the Health Center of Cheshire Academy, a private boarding school in Cheshire. She met her husband at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh in 1985 when she was a new oncology nurse and he was a third-year medical student at the University of Pittsburgh. She and Dr. Pettit married in 1985. The Pettit's elder daughter, Haley, born October 15, 1989, had just graduated from Miss Porter's school, where she played varsity cross country, basketball, and crew, and was a high honor roll student. While at Miss Porter's, she was elected to the senior leadership position of athletic association head. She also won a school award for exceptional community service. Haley was scheduled to attend Dartmouth College, where she wanted to study medicine. Haley had been in active fundraising for multiple sclerosis research following her mother's diagnosis with that disease. She captained a walk MS team called Haley's Hope. The Pettit's younger daughter, Michaela, born November 17, 1995, attended the Chase Collegiate School before her death. After Haley left for college, Michaela planned on taking over Haley's Hope and renaming it Michaela's Miracle. Michaela often cooked for her family and had done so the evening before the murders. William Pettit, the sole survivor of the home invasion, was an endocrinologist in Plainville. He was also the medical director of the Joslin Diabetes Center at Connecticut Central Hospital. Dr. Pettit has not returned to his medical practice since the murders, stating his desire to be active in the foundations set up to honor the memory of his family. He contemplated running for Congress as a Republican, but later decided against it. In the following election cycle, he successfully campaigned for the Connecticut General Assembly and now serves as a state representative. On the evening of Sunday, July 22, 2007, 48-year-old Jennifer Hawk Pettit and her 11-year-old daughter, Michaela Pettit, went to a local Stop and Shop grocery store in Cheshire, Connecticut. They picked up food for a family dinner Michaela planned to prepare. During their trip to the grocery store, Joshua Erdesky noticed them and took interest, then followed them home. Shortly afterwards, Stephen Hayes sent a text message to Erdesky that read, "I'm chomping at the bit to get started. Need a margarita soon." Hayes then texted, "We still on?" Erdesky replied, "Yes." Hayes' next text asked, "Soon?" To which Erdesky replied, "I'm putting the kid to bed, hold your horses." Hayes replied, "Dude, the horses want to get loose. LOL. Prosecutors argued at the trial that Erdesky was motivated by money and his interest in Michaela. According to Hayes' confession, he and Erdesky had planned to rob the Pettit house under the cover of darkness, leaving the family bound but otherwise unharmed. Both men attributed the grisly outcome to a change of plan. Upon their arrival in the early hours of July 23rd, they found Dr. Pettit asleep on a couch in the sunroom. Erdesky entered the basement through the unlocked door. Leaning on the basement stairs was a baseball bat. Erdesky then entered the sunroom and used the bat to strike Dr. Pettit 4 or 5 times. He and Hayes bound his wrists and ankles with plastic zip ties and rope. Dr. Pettit remembers one perpetrator telling the other, "If he moves, put 2 bullets in him." The children and their mother were then bound in their respective rooms. Hayes and Erdesky tied them by their wrists and ankles to their bedpost and placed pillowcases over their heads. After restraining the victims, Erdesky and Hayes ransacked the house for cash. They then took Dr. Pettit to the basement where they tied him to a support pole. Hayes and Erdesky continued ransacking the house for money, but were not satisfied with what they found. They then found a check register for $40,000. They decided to steal $15,000. Surveillance video from a gas station shows Hayes purchasing $10 worth of gasoline in 2 cans that were taken to the Pettit home. After returning to the house, he took Hawk Pettit to the bank. Hayes forced Hawk Pettit to withdraw $15,000 from her line of credit when the bank opened. Hawk Pettit informed the bank teller that men were holding her family hostage in their home and threatened to kill them all. Bank surveillance cameras captured the transaction. The bank manager called 911 and reported the situation to police while Hawk Pettit was still with the teller. The manager reported to the 911 dispatcher in real time as Hawk Pettit left the bank. The manager told the dispatcher that Hawk Pettit had indicated that the home invaders were being nice and that she believed they only wanted money. The Cheshire police responded to the bank's report by assessing the situation and setting up a vehicle perimeter without revealing their presence. The prosecution later claimed that this was evidence of premeditated murder. During this time, Erdesky sexually abused the 2 sisters still held in the house. Erdesky sexually assaulted 11-year-old Michaela, which he later confessed to when interrogated. Evidence that Erdesky raped Michaela came from her autopsy, during which state medical examiner Dr. Wayne Carver found his semen in her body. Erdesky photographed the assault and rape on his cell phone. In his interrogation, he claimed that he believed Michaela was 14 or 16. Forensic testing results showed that there was bleach on Michaela's clothes, indicating that Erdesky may have tried to eliminate DNA evidence from the assault. According to Hayes' confession, Erdesky provoked him into raping Hawk Pettit. Dr. Pettit was able to hear his wife's assault upstairs. He yelled up and heard one of the invaders say, "Don't worry, it's all going to be over in a couple of minutes." Dr. Pettit then managed to escape. He later testified in court that he felt a jolt of adrenaline and a need to escape after being told this. "I thought, it's now or never, because in my mind at that moment, I thought they were going to shoot all of us," said Dr. Pettit. Hayes said in his confession that while he was raping Hawk Pettit on the living room floor, Erdesky entered and announced that Dr. Pettit had escaped. Hayes then strangled Hawk Pettit. Some investigators have said that Hayes probably raped her after she had been murdered, making him a necrophile. He and Erdesky doused her lifeless body and parts of the house, including the daughters' bedrooms, with gasoline. While tied to their beds, both daughters were doused with gasoline as well. Investigators would later find the accelerant on the Pettit sisters' beds and on the clothing they were wearing. Hayes and Erdesky started a fire and fled the scene. Haley managed to escape her restraints and run out of her bedroom and into the hallway, where she collapsed and died. Her body was found at the top of the staircase. 3rd and 4th degree burns on her feet indicate that she got very close to the fire around the time she died. The medical examiner who performed an autopsy on her could not determine if the burns occurred before or after death. Michaela's body was found in her bedroom. She was still in her bed, her hands tied to it, and her lower body hanging off of it. Like her older sister, Michaela's burns may have occurred while she was still alive. Haley and Michaela both died of smoke inhalation. Dr. Pettit had been able to free himself of his restraints, exit the house, and crawl to a neighbor's yard for help. The neighbor initially did not recognize Dr. Pettit due to the severity of his injuries. Meanwhile, Hayes and Erdesky fled the scene in the Pettit family car. They were immediately spotted by police surveillance, pursued, and arrested 1 block away after crashing into a police car. The home invasion had lasted 7 very long, brutal hours. Both Hayes and Erdesky confessed to the murders. Detectives testified that Hayes smelled of gasoline throughout the interrogation. Each assailant claimed that the other was the driving force and mastermind behind the home invasion. Erdesky also blamed Dr. Pettit for the murders. In Erdesky's diary, which was later entered into evidence, he called Dr. Pettit a coward and claimed he could have saved his family if he wanted to. Stephen J. Hayes, born May 30th, 1963 in Homestead, Florida, was convicted as an adult for the first time in 1980 at age 16. He was paroled in 1982 but violated it 7 weeks later. During the time between this incident and the Cheshire murders, Hayes was arrested nearly 30 times. He spent most of his time incarcerated. Hayes' last arrest before the Cheshire murders was in 2004 after he smashed a car window with a rock and stole a woman's purse. He was paroled in 2006, was sent to the Silman halfway house where he met Karma Sergevsky. Hayes was found guilty on 16 of 17 counts related to the Cheshire murders on October 5, 2010. On November 8, 2010, the jury returned to the recommendation for him to be executed. He was formally sentenced to death by a Superior Court Judge John C. Blue on December 2, 2010. Hayes was an inmate of the Connecticut Department of Correction, subsequent to sentencing for the Pettit murders and up until August 16, 2016, when he was transferred to a correctional facility in Pennsylvania as part of an interstate corrections compact. He was incarcerated in the Northern Correctional Institution, which housed the state's death row for men in Somers, Connecticut. The method of execution employed by Connecticut was lethal injection, and the state execution chamber was located in the Osborne Correctional Institution in Somers. Joshua A. Sergevsky, born August 10, 1980, was Hayes' co-conspirator in the home invasion and murders. He was born to a 16-year-old girl impregnated by a mechanic who was barely out of his teens, according to adoption officials. He was adopted by Benedict Sergevsky, the son of a theatrical director, Theodore Sergevsky, and dancer, Ernestine Stodell, and his wife, Jude Namotka. In the early 1990s, Sergevsky's sister accused him of sexually assaulting her. During the penalty phase of his trial, Sergevsky's father conceded that this was probably true. Sergevsky committed his first burglary when he was 14. In 2002, he was arrested for 18 home invasions. Sergevsky, defense attorney at the time, says that Sergevsky told him about every burglary he committed in perfect detail. Sergevsky told his attorney that after robbing the houses, he would go to the rooms where the occupants were sleeping and listen to them breathe. He did this because he enjoyed the feeling of invading people's homes and violating their security. Sergevsky was convicted of 12 counts of burglary in December 2002. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison with 6 years of special parole. During sentencing, Judge James Bentavinga described him as a calculated, cold-blooded predator. Sergevsky was paroled in April 2007. Under Connecticut law, prosecutors were supposed to send the parole board a transcript of the sentencing proceeding, but the parole board that released Sergevsky never received the transcript and was not aware of all the details regarding his case. After being paroled, Sergevsky stayed at the Sullivan halfway house where he met Hayes. Sergevsky remained incarcerated at the Walker Reception Center in lieu of a $15 million bond until his conviction. His trial began on September 19, 2011, and on October 13, 2011, he was convicted on all 17 counts. On December 9, 2011, the jury recommended the death penalty. As of August 16, 2016, both Hayes and Sergevsky were transferred to separate prison facilities in Pennsylvania to serve their sentences. According to Connecticut state prison officials, the transfer was done as part of an interstate corrections compact due to reasons pertaining to safety and security. On October 18th, after being transferred, Sergevsky attempted to commit suicide by hanging himself. Hayes is currently incarcerated at the State Correctional Institution, Greene, a supermax prison in Franklin Township, Greene County, Pennsylvania. Sergevsky is incarcerated in the State Correctional Institution, Phoenix, in Skiphack Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. Sergevsky is currently seeking a retrial. Prior to his first trial, his attorneys were not provided with recordings that he says could have helped his case, as they were destroyed due to a lightning strike in 2010. Backups were later found in 2014 at Cheshire Town Hall. Sergevsky's attorneys are arguing that the recordings could have helped bolster their argument that the police were inadequate in their response and therefore raise questions about the credibility of their testimony against him. Sergevsky also argues that he did not receive a fair trial due to the location it was held in. Judge John Blue denied a request by defense attorneys for the trial to be moved from New Haven to Stanford. Commissar Erdesky claims that there was so much prejudice against him in New Haven that it was not possible for him to receive a fair trial there. In September 2019, it was revealed that the case would be heard by the Connecticut Supreme Court. The court heard oral arguments in October 2019. On April 12, 2021, the Connecticut Supreme Court rejected Commissar Erdesky's appeal in a 7-0 decision. In 2019, Hayes claims to be transgender and was to be undergoing hormone therapy in prison as part of his transition into a woman. Hayes' trial. Hayes' trial began on September 13, 2010. The jury was composed of 7 women and 5 men. Hayes' defense attorneys argued that Commissar Erdesky was the mastermind behind the home invasion and that he was responsible for escalating the violent nature of the crime at every critical point. Prosecutors argued that both perpetrators shared responsibility. Following the completion of the trial, the jury deliberated for about 5 hours and reached guilty verdicts on October 5th. The sentencing phase of the trial began on October 18, 2010, during which the jurors had to decide if Hayes should be executed or in prison for life. Deliberations began on November 5th. The first day of deliberations ended with the jury split over whether to recommend life in prison or death. The second day of these deliberations began on November 6th. Defense attorney Thomas Ullman told the jury that a sentence of life in prison would be the harshest possible punishment for his client Hayes because he was so tormented by his crimes and would be isolated in prison. Life in prison without the possibility of release is the harshest penalty, Ullman said. It is a fate worse than death. If you want to end his misery, put him to death. If you want him to suffer and carry that burden forever, the guilt, shame, and humiliation, sentence him to life without the possibility of release. On November 8, 2010, the jury returned with a recommendation that Hayes be executed. The jury recommended a death sentence on each of the 6 capital felony counts for which Hayes was convicted. In the sentencing phase, the jury had deliberated for about 17 hours over the course of 4 days before reaching a decision. Jurors later reported that they deliberated over a long period of time so that they could weigh all the evidence properly. Hayes had attempted to negotiate a life sentence in a plea bargain, but prosecutors chose to take the case to trial so he could get the death penalty. After the verdict, his defense attorney stated, Hayes smiled upon hearing the jury's recommendation of a death sentence. He then added, he is thrilled. That's what he's wanted all along. During a press conference after the verdict, Dr. Pettit stated, we all know that God will be the final arbiter, and I think the defendant faces far more serious punishments from the Lord than he can ever face from mankind. He also spoke about his family, saying, Michaela was an 11-year-old little girl tortured and killed in her own bedroom, surrounded by stuffed animals. Haley had a great future. She was a strong and courageous person, and Jennifer helped so many kids. For the first time in state history, the Connecticut State Judicial Branch offered post-traumatic stress assistance to jurors who served for 2 months on the triple murder trial because they had been required to look at disturbing images and hear grisly testimony. On December 2, 2010, Hayes apologized for the pain and suffering he had caused the Pettit family and added that, death for me will be a welcome relief, and I hope it will bring some peace and comfort to those who I have hurt so much. Judge John Blue formally imposed 6 death sentences, 1 for each of the capital charges. Blue then added a sentence of 106 years for other crimes Hayes committed during the home invasion, including kidnapping, burglary, and assault, before finishing with, this is a terrible sentence, but is, in truth, a sentence you wrote for yourself in flames. May God have mercy on your soul. The judge also gave Hayes an official execution date of May 27, 2011. Blue said this date was a formality because if Hayes appealed his case, his execution can be delayed for decades. His death sentence became a life sentence in August 2015 when the state abolished the death penalty. Commissar Erdesky's trial. Commissar Erdesky's attorneys offered for him to plead guilty in exchange for a life sentence. but prosecutors took the case to trial in order to give him the death penalty. Erdesky's trial began on September 19, 2011. His attorneys blamed Hayes for the murders, arguing that he was the criminal mastermind, while their client was a confused and easily led man who did not intend to kill anyone. Erdesky was found guilty on October 13, 2011. On December 9, 2011, the jury recommended the death penalty. On January 27, 2012, Erdesky was sentenced to death by lethal injection. During the hearing, Judge Blue said, "This is a terrible sentence, but it's one you wrote for yourself with deeds of unimaginable horror and savagery." Erdesky made a statement during the sentencing hearing. He spoke about the shame, disappointment, and hurt that he had caused, saying, "I will never find peace within. My life will be a continuation of the hurt I caused. The clock is now ticking, and I owe a debt I cannot repay." Though he acknowledged taking part in the crime, he insisted that he did not intend to kill anyone, saying, "Millions have judged me guilty of capital offenses I did not commit. I did not intend for those women to die. They were never supposed to lose their lives. I don't need 12 people to tell me that I'm guilty or not guilty of. None of them were there that morning. I know my responsibilities. I will bear them as I should. What I cannot do is claim responsibility for the actions of another." He spoke about how the trial affected him, saying that he had become quite comfortable in the face of hatred and bigotry, and said that the jury who recommended the death penalty for him believed me so worthless even my very existence is deemed intolerable. He also said that forgiveness was not his to have, and that he needed to forgive his worst enemy, which was himself. During his victim impact statement, Dr. Pettit described the crime as his personal holocaust and said, "I have a difficult time sleeping and trusting anymore. I hope to continue to honor my family. I push forward in hope that good will overcome evil." Blue set July 20th, 2012 as Erdesky's execution date. As with Hayes, Erdesky's death sentence was turned into a life sentence in August 2015. The home invasion murders led to immediate calls for reforms in Connecticut's criminal justice system. On July 31, 2007, Governor Rell ordered electronic monitoring of paroled burglars. On September 21st, she banned parole for violent offenders and ordered a review of convicts already on parole. On July 31st, Governor Rell called for a special session to consider tougher crime legislation. And on August 31st, she appointed a task force to examine Connecticut's criminal justice system. On January 25, 2008, Rell signed a 43-page bipartisan crime bill. Home invasion became a new class of crime which could result in a prison sentence of up to 25 years. The bill also paid for an upgrade to computer systems for law enforcement agencies. In 2007, John Carpenter, an employee of the Connecticut School, ran the New York City Marathon, raising $8,554 for the Miles for Michaela campaign, a scholarship benefit. The same year, Dr. Pettit established the Michaela Rose Pettit 2014 Scholarship Fund for the Connecticut School. He also established the Haley's Hope and Michaela's Miracle MS Memorial Fund. On January 6, 2008, over 130,000 luminaria candles were lit in front of thousands of homes across Cheshire. In Cheshire Lights of Hope, a fundraiser for multiple sclerosis and a tribute to the Pettit family. Founded by a local couple, Don and Jennifer Walsh, the event raised over $100,000 for Haley's Hope and Michaela's Miracle Memorial Funds. The murders and their aftermath were featured on the news magazine show Dateline NBC in a segment titled The Family on Sorghum Mill Drive. And on December 9, 2010, William Pettit appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in a full-hour episode about the murders of his family and the work of the Pettit Family Foundation. On August 5, 2012, Pettit remarried, marrying Christine Palliff, and moved to Farmington, Connecticut. He met her when she was volunteering with the Pettit Family Foundation. HBO broadcast a documentary by filmmaker David Hilbroner called The Cheshire Murders about the murders on July 22, 2013. On August 1, 2013, Pettit told station WFSB that he and Bailiff were expecting a child together. The baby, who was revealed to be a boy and named William Pettit III, was born on November 23, 2013. In October 2013, Pettit announced that he was considering running for Congress for the Republican Party after being approached by the National Republican Congressional Committee, who had asked him if he would be interested in running. Pettit ultimately decided not to be a candidate, but in May 2016, Pettit announced a bid for Connecticut's 22nd House District. Pettit was elected, ousting 11-term Democratic Representative Betty Bucas, and currently serves as representative in the Connecticut House of Representatives. Dr. Pettit condemned the Connecticut Supreme Court's decision to abolish the death penalty in August 2015, saying he believed the court had overstepped its boundaries and powers and urging it to give greater consideration to the emotional impact, particularly on victims and their loved ones, that death penalty cases generate. Hawk Pettit's sister, Cindy Hawk Wren, told NBC News that she was disheartened by the court's ruling. To this day, the Cheshire, Connecticut home invasion murders remains the most brutal and gruesome murders in the state's history.